So Melissa, December is National Write a Business Plan Month.
Ooh, sounds
Ooh.
sounds a little intimidating.
Really? Yes. So to celebrate, let's have a conversation about our observations, your observations, and what I've seen in the market around business plans. And they definitely have changed, kind of the new rules of business plans. So I've been an entrepreneur almost for 20 years. My first business was a smaller service-based business. I did not write a formal business plan for that, but with HeraHub, because there was quite a bit of an investment to get the business started and other players than just myself, I wrote a full Mamma Jamma business plan. I think you have it there.
This big guy right here. Ta-da!
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts in looking at this?
So this feels like I'm at a library and I'm gonna go to the archive section and understand how history works. It's exciting. It's interesting. I love that the first page, of course, has a table of contents because that's my summary and my overview. And as I look through what some of those things are, that's familiar, but I'm so curious about how it becomes this much information.
Okay, well, first off, you'll notice that how many pages-ish in the actual business plan?
It
Like
says
30 or so?
About 30.
Okay,
Yeah.
Got it. So the
It
rest
seems
of
like
all,
more than 30 pages.
yeah, of course. So the rest of all of that, as you discovered, is some of the original archival roots of HeraHub, like our logo development. Right?
That was cool to see. Yeah.
So, I worked with a graphic designer and we went through all kinds of iterations.
Like 5 different.
Yes, exactly.
It's very cool.
I know. Aren't you glad we didn't pick any of those?
I think what you've come up with is very strong and does hold the test of time.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And you'll see some other things, kind of, appendices, but a big part of that was there was an organization out of Canada, a nonprofit. So this is back in 2010, mind you, when I start writing this business plan. And the world of co-working was like the Wild West. I mean, nobody even really knew what it was. And so I found this, I don't know if you can grab the name off of it. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's towards the back.
Center for Social Innovation.
Center for Social Innovation out of Canada. They had produced a bit of here's how to open a co-working space. So I actually studied that quite a bit and included it in there because there was so much I wanted to reference. So, so that's why it looks so dang thick. It's not a 100-page business plan. It's a 30-page business plan with
stuff,
with a lot of support.
Yeah.
And Melissa, you had noted this in one of our previous conversations, this idea that you write a business plan, you print it out, it sits on a shelf, and then what? So we'll get into strategic planning because, a business should be writing an annual plan, a roadmap for the upcoming year, and there's lots of tools we can discuss, what those tools are to do that. But ultimately, we want to talk about that like inception, right? Like, how do you get all of these ideas out of your head and onto paper, frankly? And that paper could be the old school formal business plan, or it could be a business model canvas. And there are numerous versions of that. And that's really where a lot of folks have gone to, is the business model canvas and the pitch, right? The presentation. So a lot of times folks will say you need a 1-page executive summary and you need your pitch deck, which is basically a visual digital business plan.
And that's it's the exciting stuff, right? It's like, I want to make something that's a few slides long and visually represents everything I'm doing. I get excited about that.
Totally, because the business plan for those purposes is really meant to tell a story, right? You're not just selling a product or a service, you are telling a story through that pitch deck. Number one if that's the way your brain works and you want to get all of that out in a longer format setting, then do it, right? If that works for you, absolutely do it. If you are looking for debt funding, so that could be through your bank, that could be through like nonprofit organizations like Accion, then you do need that more formal business plan. A bank is going to want to see that just because they're old school.
Right.
And that's
because they're a bank.
They're a bank. They're risk averse. So they're going to want to see that, what we would call formal business plan. And there's loads of templates out there. The Small Business Administration has a really good template. What you see in front of you is adapted from that, Small Business Administration model. And if you're going to get an SBA backed loan, they're going to want to see all of those things, right? So it's beyond, vision and mission. It's really who is your target market, and really what are you selling, and what is your differentiator, and how are you going to get it in front of the right people, and what are your financial projections? We spend a lot of time on that with new businesses through the Steps to Startup program. And projections are one of the hardest things for a new business to do, because everybody pushes back like, I don't know how much I'm going to sell. And I'm like, you got to guess. You got to take an educated guess.
Start somewhere.
Start somewhere. Exactly. So a formal business plan and the new modern day, business model canvas or pitch deck are always going to include full scale financial projections as well. So what are some of the models that you have seen, Melissa? What's your take on all this?
So the canvas, the business model canvas, these are the things I'm more familiar with. Like, here's a worksheet, explore this question. What are your answers? Well, that means these are the things you value, and this is your products, and this is your target market, and this is the persona who you're going to be selling to. And I kind of like, I know there are two schools of people who like filling out forms and those who don't. I like filling out forms because someone's done the work to make some process easier for me. And so working with these worksheets and different canvases, that you can dig into that one area and then also ask the other questions if there's something that's not clear or another thought that you're having, especially if you're new to business, right? You're like, someone made this cookie cutter. Someone made this process for me. Instead of thinking I have to sit there and say like, hi, how am I writing this thing, right? And that's what templates are all about. So whether it's an old school template that you're getting, like from the one that you used and adapted, or these canvases and kind of putting those together, the general information is the same, right? And it might not have the depth, but it should have the accuracy and clarity, right? So once you've done the work and gone through the canvas, usually you'll get, I had up to maybe 20 different versions before you put the summary of this one and this one and this one, and that all goes on that 1-page summary. So it's a 1 or 2-page summary that has an overall of what it is you are doing. Then you can go dive back in and see some of those processes or smaller pieces, or even like the parking lot, right? Some people, while they're building their business, they have too many ideas. And so being able to have a place where you can safely put things that you are worried you might forget, but you can't focus on your business right now. It can't be part of your business plan when you're starting. I found those really refreshing for that, because it was a place to record everything. And then if I did have to then go into a formal, I keep doing this because there's just this wonderful physical book in front of me, which I do actually enjoy, but it's intimidating to think that I might have to read this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, the canvas, again, lots of different versions of it are really kind of speak to the world we live in right now, which is short attention span, information overload, right?
Faster and visual.
I wrote the business plan for 3 reasons. The family member loan, because it was a brand new concept, when I was going out to lease commercial real estate, the individuals wanted to know that I had a plan, right? If they are going to build out a space and put money into a space, they wanted to see, especially the financials, the target market, things of that nature. I had to convince them that I had a plan.
Oh, because it would be even scarier in an innovative space. It would be much more risky for them. Yeah. Okay. That's a great reason.
Exactly. And number 3, and I actually have used this business plan over the years. That's why I keep it there at Air Up Sorrento Valley in the cabinet, is when I bring on like an intern onto my team, or apprentice or something of that nature, or even former employees in the early days, when I brought on, employees, I would actually make them go through not read it word for word, of course. Right. But it was a good way for them to kind of get a view into the early thoughts of the business. Now, much of the business plan has changed, and yes, I'm doing my annual strategic planning and working on what that looks like for the upcoming year. But it is helpful when you onboard somebody, whether it's an intern or an employee, to have them kind of understand the roots of the business as well. And it's been a nice tool for that.
I'm curious. If I'm creating a pitch deck, I can change it in a nanosecond. If I've only sent you a link and I need to update it, I can do that immediately, right? And that could be great, especially if I'm meeting with multiple people. And typically the business plan is because I'm looking for investors. And in this case, if you have this wonderful printed binder and you want to change something, that becomes very difficult. And is there an expectation from when you do present the business plan to X amount of time goes by that has been adhered to perfectly? Does this involve any legality or contract or agreement or even assumption that could affect you, your business, or your reputation if something changes?
It's a great question. The answer is no. I mean,
okay, great. Because when I think about the PowerPoint, I think, no, probably not, right? I'm just presenting you information. There's something that feels very light about that to me.
Exactly.
As soon as I print it, it feels very real.
Yes.
And concrete.
Exactly. For folks that are perhaps new to business and need a confidence boost, for them, having a full-scale business plan that they feel like they've given all the thought to, and actually physically printing it out and having it in front of them, can boost somebody's confidence in this imposter syndrome era we live in, where it's like, is this real? Am I really doing this? Is just this all in my head? Like, physically getting it on paper.
Yeah, very satisfying. I know that when you said, there are people who, if your brain works this way, do it. And I'm like, there is part of my brain that works that way, time permitting, right? That it is very satisfying to go through things, to craft them, to fine tooth comb, to have all the answers, to put them together, to give it order, right? And then to have that table of contents at the beginning to go, this is the thing I've done. And so many of our tools make that easier for us now, our online tools and whatnot, rather than having to physically type everything up. I also thought about my sister immediately when you said that. I said, oh yeah, my sister wouldn't dream of doing it any other way. I'm sure this is where she would start if she were going to create a business.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. It shouldn't be, I have to finish the business plan, print it out, put it in a binder, and then I start, right? You're doing this simultaneously as you're launching the business because you're learning along the way. And that's what the business model canvas really, and that whole methodology, the lean business canvas,
agile, lean.
Agile. Yes, exactly. Go test, pivot, change, test again, go get in front of customers. I mean, customer discovery is step number 1, is get out of the building and talk to people. So definitely, for anyone watching this, don't go write your business plan up on the top of the mountain somewhere and then descend down and then go out in the world. Right?
Yeah, because speaking of time permitting, you'll feel the more you put into it with anything we take on, all of our projects and ideas and passions, the more you put time you're putting into something, you start to feel that investment and it starts to build that momentum, and you're going to get more attached to it as well. So let's make sure we're heading the right direction and can keep doing this as much as we need to.
Exactly. That's why no one would ever expect you to totally adhere to your business plan, because, you're learning and growing every day in your business.
So even though this is printed in front of me in black and white, we can say in a way it's still written in sand. That It could be rewritten, and time can also
shift
it.
And it has 1,000 times over, right?
Very nice.
The idea of actually going back to that original business plan and trying to rewrite that is not something I recommend. I don't recommend that you try to update your full-scale business plan, written 30-page business plan every year. That's where you're going to go to more strategic planning tools, which is a level set, like the course we're going to offer together on the 10th of December.
Yes.
Which is, I've been in business. I have a sense, what do I offer? Who do I offer it to? It's a level set on, am I targeting the right people? Is this working? What needs to change? What needs to pivot in my upcoming year? How am I going to make that happen? How might I reach a new market with my services or pivot my services? And what does that financially look like for the upcoming year? That's a one-day workshop. We get all 13 sections of your strategic planning done in one day. So you know what your roadmap is. And I really emphasize that roadmap versus business plan. So it really depends on who is it for, and really what is it for, right? So if it's to raise money, if it's to raise venture capital, that's going to be a slightly different template and pitch deck than it is to go raise friends and family capital or even angel capital.
You have different audiences, you tell a different story.
Totally. And actually the sort of higher up the food chain you're going to go, let's call venture capitalists kind of the highest level of the food chain, the actual more brevity you probably need.
Right.
Right.
Makes sense.
These people are extremely busy. But 99% of businesses are not going to be going after venture capital. 99.9% of businesses aren't going to be going after venture capital out of the gate. And that's a huge misconception. I'd say 95% of businesses aren't even going to go for any kind of equity investment out of the gate. They're going to either need to self-fund, they're going to need to go to friends, family, and fools, as folks like to say, or they're going to perhaps get some sort of microloan through an organization like Axion. A nonprofit that is giving more micro loans. So that's my beef with the lean business canvas.
Yeah.
Specifically is because it really is targeted at more technology driven companies. So the questions that are being asked in that canvas, a lot of service-based small business owners, it's kind of confusing to them. So
I found it very tricky at one point. And
exactly.
That was why I said, and if I didn't understand, I could go ask. Well, as long as I had a mentor or someone that I could consult with, I could ask to kind of deep dive into what is this? How does this apply to me? What is the big picture of this? Do I need to answer? If I'm providing a service really, really small that is very, abstract, do I need to be, it does feel driven towards certain industries more.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So we've created what I call the foundation questions that, borrow from that a little bit, but really help somebody look at the potential viability of their business through that template. And the categories are a little more, I don't want to say real world because that's not fair, but just are geared towards a small business.